What we're going to look at is lawsuits or civil proceedings. So one of the things you're going to notice right away is got all these bins on my slide. Lawsuits are about money. And what you have to do in a lawsuit is you have to prove that you were wronged, you were injured in a dollar amount. Civil and criminal are very different. In criminal, you can go to jail, prison, community service, rehab. There's a lot of things that go on with criminal. In civil, it's all about the bins. It's all about how much money your injury, your wrong is really about. So what we look at with civil proceedings, lawsuits, civil law, we look at tort law. This is where you're going to see words like frivolous lawsuits being thrown around because people do sue over a lot of things. You have people who will sue fast food companies because of instead of the 10-piece nuggets, they only got 8. Okay, so our legal system in the United States does get bogged down. It does get kind of overworked because of lawsuits. And sometimes those lawsuits are frivolous. A lawsuit needs to be able to prove that because of this person or group, this is why you were wronged or injured. Okay, so the burden of proof is going to be on the person who files the lawsuit. Same thing when talking about criminal cases. The burden of proof is on the prosecutor, the government, because they are pursuing the defendant. So civil lawsuits, similar in that, except it's the person who files called a plaintiff, okay? So the first thing that's going to happen in order for a lawsuit to occur is a wrong. What a wrong is a person feels that they were wronged or injured due to the neglect or direct cause of another person or entity. Like when I say the word entity, it could be a company. Okay? Everyone's going to have a job at some point in their life. Okay, you're going to work. When you go to work, you have your nice job, you have performance evaluations and all of that. When you're on your company's job evaluation, everything looks good. You know, your evaluation is perfect. There's nothing wrong. You know, you've been complimented time and time again. You've got company awards. And then all of a sudden you get brought into the boss's office and they let you go. You never got a warning. You never got told, hey, your work is getting sloppy. Hey, you come in late all the time. They never told you anything. Like, there's no documentation other than you were an awesome worker. So you, now unemployed, could feel that the company has wronged you. So you could sue. So wrongs can be physical harm. It could be mental, psychological harm. Now that you are unemployed, obviously you don't have a paycheck. And that does do some stress, some mental stuff to people. When people are unemployed, particularly after working and maybe being the main source of income for their family, a lot of people do experience stress. They experience anxiety. So you could feel that the company is at fault for what happened to you. And that's what you have to ask yourself with the wrong. Is this person, this group, are they at fault for what occurred to me? Are they the reason why I don't have a job? You know. So what you've got to prove in a court of law is that they are at fault. Because if you're pursuing the company, then the burden of proof is on you, and we'll call you the plaintiff from that point on. So the person feels that if it was not for the direct action of this person, group, or entity, they would be okay. People do sue, like I told you, over a lot of stuff. Wrongful termination or wrongful firing happens a lot as far as lawsuits go. Okay? This is why companies have a lot of policies when it comes to letting workers go. So typically companies are going to do a lot of documentation about what the performance is, what it's like. They're going to have a lot of documentation, so when they do let somebody go, that if a person sues them, they have evidence to say, well, here's why we fired them. We understand that they are hurt, but here's, where we brought them into the office and we talked about their performance and we, wrote them up, we corrected, they were gone a long time. Companies have created those policies because of these like lawsuits, okay? But people still sue. They might sue because they felt like there was a discrimination at their workplace. Maybe they were not, maybe they were getting let go because of their gender or their race or their age. Ageism is a discrimination. So, whatever the reason is, someone could file a lawsuit. What they're going to do is they're going to file an official complaint. And a complaint is when the injured party, the person who feels they were wronged, they got to go to the courthouse. So they're going to go down to the county courthouse or wherever it is that the incident took place, and they're going to file official document, an official complaint stating that they are suing this other group. Now I'm going to tell you about the complaint part. It costs money to file it, so it's a legal filing. It costs, in every area is a little bit different. It costs like $55 to file a lawsuit here in Cumberland County. So the complaint is a legal filing stating that this person, this group, this entity caused your damage. So it caused you to be injured, you damaged. Okay. The plaintiff is going to be the person who files the complaint. So the person who felt that they got wrongfully dismissed from their job, they're going to go to the courthouse, they're going to file the paperwork. Now that the complaint is filed, so it's actually in the court records, the person who they are suing or the group or the business, they're going to get that summons in the mail. Now they could get it in the mail, they could get it served to them. There's a lot of ways that this could happen, but they're going to get the notification that they are being sued because the plaintiff feels that they're at fault. Okay, so now that the complaint has been served and the defendant, the group being sued, now has this complaint, we call it a summons. So the summons is an official statement of the complaint. It states the grievance or the harm. It can also state the dollar amount that the person is seeking. So this would be like a redress of grievances, like here's the amount that we would like or I would like for you to give me as a result of what you did. But the summons is also going to state a date on it, and the date is going to be the date that you need to appear in court. And you do have to appear. So it is an official court document. You got to appear because you're being ordered to appear. Now that the defendant, has received the summons, so once the person, group, or entity has received it, they now are going to be called the defendant. They know that they're being sued. And now they have a chance to make a response to it. The defendant responds. So the defendant, the person that's being sued, they can go ahead and they can reply to this alleged wrong. Remember, it's alleged. It hasn't been proven. You're just being accused of. So you're accused of doing this wrongful firing or whatever the case is with the lawsuit. So as the defendant can decide to go ahead and do a couple things. They can reach out to the plaintiff, the person who has filed the lawsuit, and they can say, look, let's settle this out of court. Let's not drag this through court. I'll give you this dollar amount right now to end your lawsuit against me. And people do that. So sometimes defendants will go ahead and, to avoid like publicity, to avoid going through the court and maybe going through a lengthy court battle, which could cost a lot of money, they might want to head and try and settle it out of court. But both sides have to agree to it. So if they go to the plaintiff and they say, look, let's say it's the firing incident, we'll go ahead and we'll give you a year's worth of pay if you drop this right now. But if you go forward with this lawsuit, we're not going to do that. We're gonna, fight it and argue it. We're a company. We have a lot of money. We'll be able to be okay. It just depends. Okay. Some companies like to settle stuff real quick. It avoids the publicity because the media is going to get in on it, particularly if you're a big company. But also, it can save you money. Okay. Lawsuits cost money. Every single time you file legal paperwork, it costs money. They could also continue to go along with the lawsuit. If the defendant wants to go ahead and go forward with a lawsuit, they can. Matter of fact, they don't really have to respond or ever talk to the plaintiff directly. By them getting the summons, they are acknowledging that they are being sued, and that's all they need to do, and just show up in court. So now that everybody knows, it's public record, it's down at the courthouse, it's filings. Now what's going to happen if you decide to go forward with a lawsuit is the discovery phase. Now, plaintiffs at any point in the legal proceedings here can dismiss their case. They don't have to keep going forward with the case. So if the plaintiff, the person who filed the lawsuit, decides, hey, after this part, they said the company said, oh no, we're going to go forward with this lawsuit, you go ahead and sue us, they might drop the lawsuit. Lawyers don't always take these kind of cases for free. Okay, so, and anyway, when a lawyer does take something for free, they're typically taking it for a percent of any winnings that they might get you. So, if, let's say, you are suing for $1 million, the lawyers or the lawyer team might want 60% of whatever earnings you've got to cover their legal expense, and then, of course, their money as well, their salary from it. So it just depends. So matter of fact, after they file the complaint, if they're like, oh, I don't think this is good, I don't think this is right, as the plaintiff, they could go ahead and they could dismiss it. So they can always dismiss a case at any point that they would like. But in order for it to be settled out of court, both of the parties, the plaintiff and the defendant, have to agree. But if you want to go forward with a lawsuit, the defendant is not willing to settle out of court, and the plaintiff wants to keep going, we're going to do the discovery phase. At the discovery part, it is both sides gathering evidence. So the plaintiff has to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant is at fault for their injuries, their wrong, their harm. The defendant has the choice to collect evidence, but they don't have to. It would be in your best interest, if you're being sued, to have pieces of evidence to counter whatever the plaintiff is saying to you or about your actions. So they might have eyewitnesses to the incident. They might bring up documentation, pieces of evaluations if it's a job thing. It could be just them having character witnesses, people who say, this isn't right. So they might have letters of neighbors or something about their character. But in the discovery phase, what you're doing is you're getting ready to go to trial. Now that you have collected as much evidence as you can go forward with the next step, the actual trial, which will be in the courtroom.